Okay, so we are in the paragraph chapter, the Lord of the Sacrifice. And we have to read from the way to bring about this great transformation. So, if all of you are ready, I will read each sentence and we'll see whether it's clear. Here I go. The way to bring about this great transformation follows a double path. Okay? We have already seen this. And the way, what is a great transformation? Rising from the level 1 of ignorance to level 2 of the spiritual planes of consciousness. I don't see anything more than that because there are many experiences possible in the level 2. Okay, so but the main one that happens to most people is the Brahmic consciousness, the self. You enter into a consciousness which is immutable, featureless, absolutely peaceful, and your consciousness is not identified now with your body, mind, life, and you are aware that you are immortal, you always have existed, and you will always continue to exist. This is the Brahmic consciousness. So, there is a great transformation that is speaking about. And how to go about it? There are two ways. Way of knowledge and fear. The way of knowledge is Jnana Yoga. And
Where is it? Speaker off. On.
Sarojati, please put off your speaker.
Maximum better.
So the way of knowledge is Jnana Yoga. You use the mind. And the way of works is Karma Yoga. And you sacrifice everything that you are doing to the divine. You, every act of yours, every thought of yours, every action, every thought, every emotion, everything you turn it towards the divine. That's the way of sacrifice, yajna, as the Gita says. So, for there is the way of knowledge and there is the way of words. And the Gita combines them in a firm synthesis. You don't need to keep it separate, just as also Sri Aurobindo combines them. Okay? They say that we have to, it's possible to do both ways. It may be slightly longer, but that doesn't matter because the result that you get at the end justifies the delay. Okay, it is so wonderful that you don't mind spending a little more time on it. The Gita combines them in a firm synthesis, although they seem to be opposite. Because the way of knowledge is don't do works. And the Karma Yoga is saying, no, I will do works, but I'll do it not for myself, but for the divine. Okay? That removes the ego. The way of knowledge is to turn the understanding, the intelligent will, away from its downward absorption in the workings of the mind and the senses and upward to the self, the Purusha or Brahman. It is to make it dwell always on the one idea of the one self and not in the many branching conceptions of the mind and the many streaming impulses of desire. So, there are two ways. One is upwards, constantly think of the Lord, and whatever you are doing, sacrifice to Him. The other is the normal human life, where you are concerned with the daily needs and the daily requirements of life in the world. You are interested, you are always thinking of what is to be done for breakfast, what is to be done for dinner, what is to be done for lunch. Okay, you are all the time. Oh, I don't have this, I have to go to the market and buy. It's absolutely outward and downwards. And the other one is the upwards. Whatever you are doing, you are not paying so much attention to the practical details of life, but you are constantly thinking. Even if you are doing the practical details of life, do it with the thought of the divine in the background of your mind. Okay? So that's the way of knowledge. The way of knowledge is to turn the understanding, the intelligent will, away from its downward absorption. You're completely, all your attention is there in the working of the mind and the senses, okay? And upward to the self, the Purusha or Brahman. It is to make it dwell always on the one idea of the one self and not in the many branching conceptions of the mind. So many branching, diversified and distracted. It's going in all sorts of directions. The mind is shooting off at all sorts of different directions. Even when you're trying to concentrate on one thing, suddenly you will find that you're suddenly thinking of something else. Okay? It jumps all the time. Like a like a monkey. There is no fixed. So to develop the concentration is a great thing for the mind. So, many branches. It also gives you the idea that at the highest level is one, and at the lowest level is the many. The principle of the one becoming the many. That also is implied there. Many branching conceptions of the mind and many streaming impulses of desire. He's using interesting words, many branching. So, and many streaming impulses of desire. Taken by itself, this path would seem to lead to the complete renunciation of works, to an immobile passivity, and to the severance of the soul from nature. Soul is the higher being, you are constantly turned upwards, and nature is downwards, pulling you downwards. So naturally, when you get the purpose of your yoga, you get the Brahmic consciousness, it ends up with absolutely no importance at all given to the body-mind life. So that's what he's saying. Taken by itself, okay? Because you can also combine it with other things. Taken by itself, this path would seem to lead, normally that's a conception, but not necessarily so. Because Swami is saying, I'll combine them both. And the Gita also is saying. Swami is not saying anything much about his own yoga here. He will say that only towards the end. But here, the Gita is saying that it can be combined. Taken by itself, this path would seem to lead to the complete renunciation of works. Complete. To an immobile passivity. Physical passivity, and also mental and vital passivity. And to the severance, the cutting off of the soul from nature. So the two are nothing in common, and you are in the soul or the self, and nature is going on below, but you are not concerned with it. But in reality, such an absolute renunciation, passivity, and severance are impossible. Why? Because you have a body, you have a vital, and you have a mind, and the body needs food, it needs sleep, and those are actions, karma. So how can you give up those things? So to say it is impossible. Okay? Rather, the Gita is saying. But in reality, such an absolute renunciation, passivity, and severance are impossible. Purusha and Prakriti are twin principles of being which cannot be severed. They are always together, but in unequal proportions. That also we have seen. For instance, at the lowest level, matter is Prakriti, and there is full of energy there, but Purusha is not seen anywhere in matter, or even in life it is not seen, it is hiding. But as you keep climbing higher and go to level 2 in the spiritual planes, Purusha becomes very apparent and the movement stops. Therefore, nature has been absorbed into the Purusha. So it is inversely proportional to each other at the two levels, level 1 and level 2. Okay? Purusha and Prakriti are twin principles of being which cannot be severed. So long as we remain in nature, because you have a body, mind, life, you are in nature. Our workings in nature must continue, okay? Even though they may take a different form, or rather a different sense from those of the unenlightened soul. The one who is an unenlightened soul is leading an ordinary life, and he is identified with whatever he is doing, whatever he is thinking. But the one who is in the Jnana Yoga path, he also continues to eat, continues to sleep, continues to talk with everybody. But now he is not attached to these things. He is completely cut off from all these things. Mechanically, it is going on. Okay? That's the difference. The real renunciation, not of the physical world, but real renunciation, for renunciation, sannyasa, there must be, is not the fleeing from works, but the slaying of ego and desire. That is the main thing. And if you cut off the ego and desire, then you can continue to do the work without being a slave to the body, mind, life. That's what it says. Cut the desire in the mind. Then, even if you do works in the world, it doesn't give you, the law of karma is suspended. Nothing happens to you. Okay? Now, the you is the soul. The body, mind, life will continue to have the karma. The law of karma will operate. Body, mind, life. Remember that even the avatar, let alone the yogis, even the avatar is subject to the laws of matter in the world. Okay? This is the law that is there. But you are free. The consciousness is free. Okay? Not the fleeing from works, not the physical works, but the desire in the mind is cut. That's the root of the problem. The problem is attachment, not what you do. Attachment, desire, and ego. If they are removed, you can do whatever is necessary in the physical world. The divine is telling Arjuna to even fight and kill his own family members. And he can do that without the law of karma attaching to him. He has to, first of all, disengage himself from the identification of body, mind, life. Then he can do it. The real renunciation, for renunciation, sannyasa, there must be, is not the fleeing from works, but the slaying of ego and desire. Okay? Now, the word sannyasa is laying down. As is to throw away. Sannyasa, putting down. Okay? The laying down of the. But that is the body, mind, life you are sacrificing. But the other one is tyaga. The word used in the Gita is tyaga. You are giving up the ego, attachment, and desire. That's the real way. The way is to abandon attachment to the fruit of works, even while doing them. In other words, whenever we are studying, we want to pass an exam. That's our. Whenever we are eating, we want to enjoy the food. So whenever we are doing some work, we want success. So you have to do the work, you have to eat, you have to do examination, everything you have to do, but without the expectation of the fruit of works. Karma phala, that you have to give up. Okay? The way is to abandon attachment to the fruit of works. So you do the work with the best attention and the best attitude you can have without expecting any return. Very difficult, but that's the only solution for going to the lower, higher consciousness. To the fruit of works, even while doing them. And the way is to recognize nature as the agent and leave her to do the works and to live in the soul as a witness and sustainer, watching and sustaining her, but not attached either to her actions or their fruits. So that's exactly what happens when you lose your identification with body, mind, life and rise to level 2. What happens is you become a witness, okay? And you realize that you were thinking all the while that you are doing the actions, okay? You are deciding things, but actually it is nature which is doing all that. Just like nature is making the plant grow, it is also making you act and making you have emotions and making you think. You are not thinking. Thoughts are occurring in you. Emotions are, you are not emoting. Emotions are being put into you. Actions also can be absolutely, it's the nature that is doing all these things. So, watching and sustaining. When you go to level 2, there you are. The witness attitude. They are one of the great realizations of the spiritual life. First, because the ego goes away. The problem is the ego. At our level, we think that we are doing because of the ego. But if ego goes away, you start seeing the reality. That is nature which is doing everything. Okay? Recognize nature as the agent and leave her to do the works and to live in the soul as a witness and sustainer. First is the witness, then is the sustainer. Okay? Then watching and sustaining her, but not attached either to her actions or their fruits. The ego, the limited and troubled personality. Okay. Now, personality again, you have words instead of the personality with a P lowercase. He is referring to the body-mind life, the nature, the outer nature. The limited and troubled personality is then quieted and merged in the consciousness of the one impersonal self. The word impersonal, very clear, the impersonal aspect of the divine. He is not there, there is no divine. But the qualities of the divine are there. Peace, freedom, sense of infinity, okay, complete lack of any disturbance, no emotions, no thoughts, nothing. You're completely at ease. That's the impersonality. So level 2, usually, of the spiritual planes of consciousness, you realize the impersonal aspect, not the personal aspect. The personal aspect of the divine. Yeah, tell me, Karika.
When we are taking this attitude, then the impetus goes away, no?
But you're not interested in the impetus, nah? That's the whole point. You're not interested in the world anymore. So much the better. Yeah. You're not interested in the world anymore. You're interested only in the peace and the sense of infinity.
Okay.
Yeah. That is what many people also say. Okay. And you have samatha. Okay, you have samatha. Then life in the physical world becomes very uninteresting because everything is very calm, quiet, no drama, nothing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's true. That's actually happens. You know, I'll tell you, so many sadhikas writing to Muksha that life has lost its savor. It has lost its taste. Everything is tasteless. So it says, wonderful. That's the first stage. You are on the right path. Okay, so that's it. So that happens. But later on, if you persist, okay, then the emotion and the beauty and the joy, all that comes in later, and much more than what you can experience in the physical world. Because in the physical world, you like some things, but you also dislike some things. But in that spiritual consciousness, you will start liking everything. You will find everything beautiful. You will find no ugliness anywhere. You will enjoy everything. I love to say, I hate Karelas, but if I'm in that consciousness, even Karelas will become absolutely divine taste. In fact, mother calls, Kerala, what she calls it? The name given to Kerala is sweetness.
Oh.
Okay, so that's the reality. Okay, so the ego, the limited and troubled personality, is then quieted and merged in the consciousness of the one impersonal self, while the works of nature continue to our vision and operate through these becoming, all these becomings or existences, who are now seen by us as living and acting and moving, but under her impulsion entirely, nature's impulsion, in this one infinite being. Okay. I'll dwell a little longer on what Tarika said about the absolutely so no emotions of any sort. So Swayambhu calls it a negative liberation. The first stage of the spiritual transformation is a negative liberation, because surely the divine is full of happiness, full of bliss, ecstasy. So why is it absent at the first level? Because you will get it at the second level. Okay, and that's why Swayambhu says.
But it becomes, you also feel it is, whether it is tamasic, it becomes tamasic, or it rises. I don't know.
It is not tamasic at all. It is not tamasic. But what you are saying is very interesting question you are raising, Tarika, because I know of somebody who was in that consciousness, and there is a tendency not to engage in works in the physical world. But it's not really tamas as we understand it in the normal sense. Okay? But there's a tendency not to engage too much in works. I'll tell you that. Okay, that is there. Because you are not paying, you are paying attention to the higher. You are not paying any attention to the lower. So there is a tendency towards non-action, but that tendency only lasts for a certain time. And then so Srivamda wants not a negative peace, but he wants a positive peace. And that positive peace is when you go higher up, you start enjoying everything. Okay? That which you could not do at the lower level, you start enjoying everything. Okay, I'll give you another instance of how it is done. Suppose if you compare yourself to at the level 1, normally our cup is full of water, okay, and it is dirty water because we have got desires, we have got attachments, we have got egos. So if you want to fill the cup with the bliss, the ecstasy and the enjoyment of pure water, you have to first empty the water, the dirty water. So that is when you have emptied the dirty water, the cup is empty. So that's the experience of the samatha, the absolute absence of pleasure, but also of suffering, which is not there. Okay. Then you fill it up with the pure water of enjoyment. Okay. So that's why it makes a difference between the others are praising the negative liberation. They say it's enough. They have got peace and calm and all. But Srivamda says, why only peace? Why not power? Why not enjoyment? So go to the next level, even higher up. That's the whole idea. Okay? So I'll read that. It's a very big sentence. We are going phrase by phrase, but I'll just read the sentence again. I'm starting from the ego. The ego, the limited and troubled personality, is then quieted and merged in the consciousness of the one impersonal self, the Nirguna Brahman. Impersonal self is a Nirguna Brahman, no qualities, absolutely free of all qualities. Saguna Brahman is the one with qualities, okay, with characteristics, within their multiplicity and variety comes in. But here at the first level, no variety, absolutely only oneness, okay? A bland oneness, consciously impersonal self. While the works of nature continue to our vision to operate through all these becomings in double quotes, that is mechanical actions. The becomings are all mechanical action or existences who are now seen by us as living and acting and moving, but under her impulsion entirely, nature's impulsion, not our own. Okay? In this one infinite being, you are in a consciousness which is infinite existence. See, infinite being. Here the word being is with a B cap, and that she's talking about the existence, the sat that you enter into this pure subtle substance of the Brahmic consciousness. That's why being in cap. And it also suggests being is used in very different ways, but here he is talking of the spiritual substance. It's a subtle substance in which you find purity and oneness. Our own finite existence is seen and felt to be only one of these, because there are so many others. Okay? Your neighbors, your friends, your relatives, everybody else. You are only one of the workings of nature, and all the others also are the workings of nature. Our own infinite finite existence is seen and felt to be only one of these, and its workings are seen and felt to be those of nature. Nature is manipulating you like a puppet, not of our real self, which is a silent, impersonal unity. So you are now in a position where you are watching from the mountain top, and all your body mind life is going on moving down in the valley. Okay? The ego claimed them as its own doings, and therefore we thought them ours. Our actions and our emotions, the ego is claiming for itself wrongly, okay? Because it's in ignorance. So, and we thought that we are doing all these things. But the ego is now dead, and henceforth they are no longer ours, but nature's. So we have achieved, by the slaying of ego, impersonality in our being. We have achieved impersonality. and consciousness, full consciousness. We have achieved by the renunciation of desire, impersonality in the works of our nature. So that's what happens in the physical world. If you are impersonal, then you will be absolutely without partiality. Okay, where everybody is equal to everybody else. So that samatha, the oneness comes in, and your nature will start looking at everything in the real sense. So you remember that phrase from the Gita, the man who is in the Brahmic consciousness sees the one who is a scholar, okay, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, okay, Gavi Hastini Shwaha, okay, all the dogs and animals and everything, you see them all in an equal sense. Okay, that's what happens. You become absolutely impartial to everything. We are free, not only in inaction, but in our action. So in the physical world, you will see is many people are absolutely in the sattvic consciousness, but they are not. Those who are in the sattvic consciousness are not necessarily spiritual consciousness. But in the spiritual consciousness, you will see them acting in a very sattvic way. But it's not sattva. You are above sattva. You have become triguna-atita. You are above the rajas, sattva, rajas, tamas. You are above that. Okay. So we are free not only in inaction, but in our action. So when you become free in our action, then that is the positive liberation. Srila doesn't call it the negative liberation. Our liberty does not depend on a physical and temperamental immobility and vacancy, nor do we fall from freedom. Directly we act. Even in a full current of natural action, the impersonal soul in us remains calm, still, and free. So the consciousness that comes is absolutely, it is working in the world, but it is free of all these things. There's a story here which I have marked, and I think most of you know the story. There are two people. One is a yogi and one is a normal man. But they are standing on the bank of a river. And suddenly a lady comes and says, I need to cross and there's no boat. So the yogi says, yes, you sit on my shoulders, I'll walk across the river and put you on the other side of the bank. So he takes her on the shoulders and he crosses the river and deposits her on the other shore. Then the man who is an ordinary man, he is absolutely flabbergasted and absolutely stunned. He said, what have you done? You have taken a woman, you have touched her and you have taken her on your shoulder and put her on the other bank. How could you do that? So the yogi tells the other man, see, I took her and I deposited her on the other side of the bank. You are still carrying her in your consciousness. So this is a story which illustrates exactly what we say. Even in the full current of natural action, the impersonal soul in us remains calm, still, and free. So you can do whatever work you want to do, but there is no karmic law that applies to you. When you go to the Brahmic consciousness, that's what it means. So 8:30, we have about 5-6 minutes more. We have even less more, about 10 minutes we have. So we can read the next one. Okay? We may not be able to study it, but we can read it. The basic idea is now clear, now what he's saying. And this you can do it two ways. You can do it by Jnana Yoga or you can do it by Karma Yoga. He has not yet expanded on that, but we'll come to that later. So now, one of you has to read. Okay. Who is volunteering? Quick. They have time only to read it.
I will read, Ranga.
I can read.
Okay.
Oh, okay, Shilpa, you can.
Wow, there are 3 volunteers.
I have not voted. It is Tarika Ben, I think. I have not
Yeah.
said anything because I know this.
First, but she often reads. So Shilpa can read today. Yasmin also is.
Okay.
Yeah. Shilpa, you read. We'll
Yes.
just read today. Okay. Next time we'll discuss.
The liberation given by this perfect impersonality is real, is complete, is indiscipline, is indispensable. But is it the last words, the end of the world, whole matter? All life, all world existence, we have said, is the sacrifice offered by nature to the Purusha, the one and secret soul in nature, in whom all her workings take place, but its real sense is obscured in us by ego, by desire, by our limited, active, multiple personality. We have risen out of ego and desire and limited personality, and by impersonality, its great corrective, we have found the impersonal Godhead. We have identified our being with the one self and soul in whom all exist. The sacrifice of works continues, conducted not by ourselves any longer, but by nature. Nature operating through the finite part of our being, mind, sense, body, but in our infinite being. But to whom then is this sacrifice offered, and with what object? For the impersonal has no activity and no desires, no object to be gained, no dependence of anything on all this world of creatures. It exists for itself in its own self delight, in its own immutable eternal being. We may have to do works without desire as a means in order to reach this impersonal self existence and self delight. But that moment, once executed and object of work is finished, the sacrifice is no longer needed. Works may even then continue because nature continues and her activities, but there is no longer any further object in these works. The sole reason for our continuing to act after liberation is purely negative. It is the compulsion of nature on our finite parts of mind and body. But if that be all, then first works may well be boiled down and reduced to a minimum, may be confined to what nature's compulsion absolutely will have from our bodies. And secondly, even if there is no reduction to a minimum, since action does not matter and inaction also is no object, then nature of the all the works also does not matter. Arjuna, once having attained knowledge, may continue to fight out the battle of Kurukshetra, following his old Kshatriya nature, or he may leave it and live the life of sannyasi, following his new quietistic impulse. Which of these things he does becomes quite indifferent, or rather, he seconds it. The second is the better way, since it will discourage more quickly the impulses of nature which still have a hold on his mind owing to past created tendency, and when his body has fallen from him, he will securely depart into infinite and impersonal with no necessity of returning again to the trouble and madness of life in this transient and sorrowful world. Anityam asukham imam income lokam.
Imam, Anityam Asukam. Anityam, transitory. It is not Nityam, it is not eternal, it is transitory. And Asukam, full of suffering. Imam Lokam. So that's a famous one. Anityam Asukam Lokam Imam Prapya Bhajasvama. Worship me. You have come into this world which is full of transience and suffering. Having come, there is no other way. So the way to do it is Bhajasvama. You worship me. Then you will be able to get free of this transience and suffering. So it's a very interesting way what he's saying. So same thing now saying, is liberation the only way? So saying no, there can be something more. So he is going to, that also the Gita also will tell you. Because the Gita goes on to the Purushottama. At our level, at our lower level, the Gita's way of describing is the Uttama Purusha is the highest, okay? Akshaya Purusha is the middle, And Kshara Purusha is the lowest. Kshara Purusha is your psychic being, which is Kshara, which is evolving. It is not static. But when you go to level 2 of the spiritual planes, you have attained a static condition. That's why it is Aksharam, Akshara Purusha. Akshara, so the one that is not evolving anymore, it is silent. But it's a negative state. So you have to go to the third level for the positive state. And that is the Purushottam. So, Kshara Purusha, Akshara Purusha, Uttama Purusha. 3 levels. And the tally is perfectly with those philosophy, because the third level is the supermind, where everything becomes possible. Okay? Not only suffering is eliminated, but even joy and power and bliss are available. So we will stop here today and we'll take up this next time. Then you will see how those philosophy goes even farther than the Gita. The Gita goes on to this level and says, live in the physical world like the lotus leaf in water. Live in the world, do everything, but don't get wet. Wet with what? Wet with ego, wet with desire, wet with attachments. These have to, like a duck's back, the duck back also, okay, when you put water on it, it just falls off. The duck doesn't get wet. Exactly like the lotus leaf. It's a beautiful image, and the Gita is full of wonderful images, because images are the only way to express spiritual truths. You can't use language there. There's no language now, so you are about that. So, we stop here today. So,
Yes.
next time, we'll do this. The liberation given by this perfect impersonal. I'll also make.
Thank you, Rangada.
Okay.
Thank you, Rangita.
Junne Rangada.
I see there. I think it is Saroja Devi. Her Saroja Reddy, no? She is there. I think because there's one more emblem. It's L-I. I don't know what that means, but there's also the link is also given at the bottom. So anyway, we'll tell her to put her name on it next time. I think Archana ji can do that. Okay, au revoir everybody. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Rangita.
Thank
Thank you, Rangada. Au revoir.